So, current work, next steps. Remember those purple checks? We're still working on the public and stakeholder approach, and we did our initial regional plan. It was came through in 2005, 2006. We've just finished a review of that plan, and we've come out with new amendments. So we do that every 5 years. So we did have a lot of stakeholder consultation there. Halifax Harbour planning has been incorporated into our regional plan. I would have preferred it if it had been a separate plan, a standalone, but never say never, it may come back. So you can see the policies that we adopted in 2006 with the first regional municipal planning strategy, E16, and then the amendments we made to it in 2014 on E22. Little bit more information, a little bit more accuracy. So we started with 2.5 meter elevation above ordinary high water mark. So rather than establishing only a horizontal setback, we also, and this was the first time I believe in Atlantic Canada, we established a vertical setback. So you had to satisfy the vertical setback as well as the horizontal setback in order for residential or any type of coastal development. We just introduced a little bit more certainty for that in E22 because ordinary high water mark is sort of a fuzzy line. We started to incorporate some of the representative concentration pathways for AR5, and you can see Halifax at 0.78, and then under 8.5, 1.11, and then see that overall time. So going back to what we said about scenario 2, scenario 3, not too bad. Now some of the products that we've looked at, especially from land use planning, is to take this information that we have about sea level rise and apply it to the built environment and the shoreline knowledge that we have around Halifax Harbour. It's basically a Boolean approach. It either is or it isn't, but where you have land uses coinciding, say with land use coinciding with hazardous waste, vulnerable population, et cetera, the more of that taking place in one given area, the higher the vulnerability. So the darker the purple, the higher the vulnerability. We originally did this in red, amber, and green, but then we saw that the message of red to the general public is one of warning, one of danger, one of we're sending out an alarm. We don't want to send out an alarm. What we want to do is have a valuable planning tool. One of the other models that we've been able to run, and this was done by Will Perry and Fumin Zhu, was a wave run-up and sesh model. So it's not just the sea level rise in the harbour. It's areas where we're going to get some activity in terms of wave run-up and that's proven to be very valuable. So current work and next steps, I'll just get into that. We need to, and we have been incorporating the whole idea of sea level rise into all of our corporate decision making, which has been a great move forward. So all of the infrastructure work that we're doing, everything is sort of viewed through that lens. And I think we're getting back to the point where it's been sort of a dry spell over the last few years, but intergovernmental cooperation and collaboration was key to the success of this program, and I think we can return to that very shortly. So here's a couple of the projects that we've done. So we did Point Pleasant Park wave and storm modeling, Northwest Arm seawall restoration, Cole Harbour Marsh. So we were talking earlier about the bathymetry. We had some good luck on this, and this bathymetry didn't exist before we partnered with Public Works Canada, they actually used one of their pontoon boats to go and grab that bathymetry for us, because Point Pleasant Park during Hurricane Juan lost about 15-20 meters of shoreline inland, and so we wanted to have a greater understanding of what the wave regime was there and what we could do to save the park. And so you can see what we did was we took the bare earth, bathymetry, did a nice interpolation there, and got that information, which was key to doing our wave run up. And this is actually where cold water came in. Mike Davis, I don't know if any folks here know him, but it was great working with Mike. So we started looking at that. And so, you know, this is one of the areas where we lost the most shoreline. So that all of that information was then incorporated in the Point Pleasant Park Comprehensive Plan. And it explained that that was the area with the highest dynamic shoreline, and nothing should be built there. Nothing. That we would basically let it erode, because it would be trying to sweep back the sea if we did anything at that point. So that's it. And so there's part of that plan, and that plan is being implemented. So a do-nothing plan, but hate to say it, but that was it. Yeah, and that lawn that you see down below Sailor's Way, or on the Point Pleasant Park. So there's a roadway and then just lawn and shoreline. And so we call that the tidal lawn. And so there you go. Northwest Arm seawall restoration. So if you can imagine the Armdale roundabout as being up here, you know, the Dingle, Regatta Point, Horseshoe Island. So this is the sort of energy, wave energy that occurs in the Northwest Arm. And who would have thought that it would be that powerful that far up? But it is, certain winds. And what was happening is a lot of that wave energy was destroying our seawall system at the Dingle. So again, I worked with cold water on this one, and we came up with a new adaptive seawall system for the Dingle. And there it is being built. That was first stage, and you know, we're now going into third phase. Altogether, that wall plus work at Regatta Point and Horseshoe Island is going to be around $30 million. But it's over a 10-year period, so it is doable. Cole Harbour Salt Marsh Trail, we had sort of that defend, advance, retreat option there. This is Cole Harbour Marsh. And there's a beautiful salt marsh trail, hiking trail that goes across the marsh on an old rail line. But even a nor'easter takes a lot of it out. So we looked at that. Our advice on our report was to do a partial retreat. But the community group that operated this area said, nope, they're going to defend. So they started adding rock, but our wave calculations showed that that rock would be picked up by wave, and that was a more appropriate size. So at least we were able to provide some engineering information for them. So going back to that wave run-up and sesh model, like, it's nice to know, how does that work? And all of a sudden you go, oh, there's Dartmouth Cove. And that was one of the most dynamic areas going. What's going on in Dartmouth Cove? Massive development now called King's Wharf. And residential development, condo development, you name it. And it's all taking place right now. So you can see up here what's taking place. Down here, there's Dartmouth Cove, and that's a whole new development that's going to be taking place over the next few years. The good news is that we gave all of the LiDAR information to the consulting companies. So EDM Limited had the LiDAR data for King's Wharf. CBCL had the LiDAR data for Dartmouth Cove. Good news is that first base floor elevation for residential housing for King's Wharf is 11 meters above sea level. So that's we changed our policies too over the years not to allow any residential development at base floor. Only the second floor of any coastal development around the harbor is permitted to be residential.
Is base floor commercial? Questions.
It's at ground level. Yeah, yeah. We've also taken the LiDAR and used it and combined it with QuickBird satellite imagery to create a Canopy Height model, which has been fantastic for us over the last few years. So we were able to identify canopy at a community level and at a neighborhood level. So there's North End, for example. So we've been able to calculate exact levels of canopy at a neighborhood scale. We just won National Award, Canadian Institute of Planners, Best Plan in Canada last year for our Urban Forest Master Plan. But we've got a project team, and going back to the science, the link between science and planning, we've just had some fantastic people over the years, and this is just sort of a partial list of all of the people that have contributed to the project. But I've got one more thing. I feel like Steve Jobs here, yeah. But our question is, we did this first in 2007, LiDAR for the portion of HRM, and when are we going to do it again? And my big question is, why not all of HRM in 2016-17? I've got the support of senior staff in HRM to look at this as to fly the whole municipality at that point. But then once you start looking at the whole municipality and the patchwork of LiDAR coverage that we have in the province and the age of it and the impossibility of stitching it together, why don't we do the whole province? I think it's time. Because if we started looking at just a flight pattern for all of HRM, then we would preclude wise flight patterns for other parts of the municipality. So, you know, if you look up here and go, you know, how would you fly this? And what about up here? You know, wouldn't it be better to move it that way? So I don't have any answers. It's just a question. But I think we've reached that point where we've seen all of PEI done, and I think this is time to look at the whole province. Thanks.